Hello kiddies and welcome to the Techspert Weekly slightly hungover coronation special. Oh, hang on. Some rich bloke's been made the king of us all, so it's the perfect time to rejoice and reflect on what makes being British so bloody brilliant. Things like, the fact that James Corden doesn't live here anymore. Like seriously, we're not even good enough for James Corden. There you go, that's enough patriotism for 1 week. Now it's time for some hot tech chat. Jingle me. Techspert Weekly. So lately we've had a few more leaks crash landed on the internet for Asus's 2023 flagship smartphone, the Zenfone 10. And as Judas once famously said to Jesus, I'm afraid I've got some very bad news. You see, the Zenfone 9 was one of my favourite smartphones of 2022 because it bucked that irritating trend of being absolutely f***ing enormous. Seriously, my pants just cannot handle any more 7-inch blowers. And frankly, using a modern mobile one-handed is like trying to teach trigonometry to an extremely pissed off grizzly bear. So the 5.9-inch Zenfone 9 was an absolute hero, slipping merrily into your trouser pocket and mercifully not prodding you in the pancreas every time you walked at pace. All without compromising on the specs or the battery life. Sadly, however, it seems that Asus has forsaken us stubby-fingered folk with the fresh new Zenfone 10, which is set to launch around June-July time. Because the latest leaks suggest that this 2023 reboot will sport a much bigger 6.3-inch AMOLED display. And yeah, that is still quite compact compared with the 6.7-inch mega bastards that I find myself fumbling with every week. But my pancreas is already crying at the thought of more incessant poking. So why, oh why, oh why has Asus gone bigger with the Zenfone 10? Well, one advantage of having a larger frame is you can stuff a massive battery inside. And the Zenfone 10 is said to serve up a 5000 mAh cell, and that's a pretty bloody big upgrade over the 4300 mAh effort of the Zenfone 9. That said, the Zenfone 9 already lasted a full day, no worries, even with plenty of screen on time, so it's not really that much of an advantage. You'll also apparently have 67 watt fast charging and doubtless a bit of wireless charging support. And meanwhile, the Zenfone 10 has also been benchmarked with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, as you'd kind of expect from a modern flagship, backed by a generous 16 gigs of RAM. And people what say stuff on the internet also reckon that the Zenfone 10 will come with a 200 megapixel camera sensor wedged on the back, similar to Samsung's Galaxy S23 Ultra. So overall, it should be a solid Android flagship, even if it takes two hands to properly grapple with it, something your mum is more than familiar with. But the thing that's really keeping me up at night, besides a useless bladder and a hyperactive cat who likes to fight with my toes, is this. If the Zenfone, one of the last remaining sub-6-inch compact smartphones, has bulked up now, is that the final death knell for mini mobiles? After all, Apple also mercilessly killed off its iPhone mini models after the 12 series. And Jesus, I never thought I would mourn the death of an iPhone of all things, but that 12 mini was easily the best of that lineup. Better than the oversized Pros, if only because it didn't feel like you had the f***ing Rosetta Stone stuffed in your pants, and it only cost you one kidney instead of the pair. And my once regular roundup of the best compact smartphones is now frankly becoming a bit of a joke. You might as well do a video about the most friendly Nazis or the funniest James Corden jokes. However, there is possible salvation as Google's Pixel 8 will supposedly come with a 6.16-inch screen, which means that it has actually shrunk a wee bit versus the 6.3-inch Pixel 7, while the Pixel 7a will also apparently be a wee-in at just 6.1 inches. And of course the Samsung Galaxy S23 retained its wee stature, so maybe the mini mobile isn't completely deceased just yet. But what do you guys reckon? Is it go big or go home time for the humble smartphone? Definitely let us know in the comments below. So now it's time for the part of the show that really puts the ass in harassment. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. So for anyone who was unfortunate enough to tune in last week, you will have enjoyed another super awkward relaxation session designed to set your sphincter to ultra relaxed mode. The Thoracus says, the most common relaxation tape I've ever heard. I can only assume that you've not heard other relaxation tapes, or that was just sarcasm. MadMonk33 says, at the start I was thinking, WTF has happened? Have I fallen into a new dimension where Uncle Spurt has become a life Zen coach? Then the massive turds appeared and everything was fine. Yeah, turds make everything fine, apparently. Well, they certainly improved the quality of this show anyway. Felix simply says, WTF? Yeah, fair. Rob Page says, will we have to wait another 87 episodes for the next one? I sincerely hope it'll come sooner than that. I know I will. I'll tell you what, if my liver hasn't completely dissolved or exploded in 87 episodes time, I promise I'll bring you volume 3. Stephen Lewis says, that intro felt like what I imagine getting kidnapped feels like. Don't quit your day job, Uncle Spurt. But this is my day job, so do you want me to quit or not? I'm kind of confused. Nicholas says, but Uncle Spurt, willies and bums are relaxing. Yeah, fair play. Michael W says, so what are the odds of the Croydon Tourism Council sponsoring your channel after that relaxation tape intro? Yeah, I'd say my chances there are probably slim to none if they even have a tourism council. But who knows, they might see the funny side and make me the new spokesperson. Do you enjoy constantly checking your shoes to see where that nasty f***ing smell is coming from? Well, you'll love a bit of Croydon. Patrick says, 4 generations of my family lived around Croydon. They now live in Scotland, Lancashire, Somerset, anywhere but Croydon. I'll tell you what, I will say this for Croydon. It may be a wee bit stabby, but at least it does have a Morley's fried chicken, which is absolute god tier chicken, despite my friend's insistence that it gave him god tier shit for an entire weekend. Jerry says, at £7 per pint, the London booze price is terrifying, unless maybe a pint means a different thing there. Where I live, £7 is closer to a full crate of beer, you jammy get. That must be one of the downsides of living in the UK. No wonder most of the people that I know that live in the UK have quit drinking. Quit drinking? If anything, we're in more dire need of booze right now than ever before. The only difference is we'll have to stop brewing it in our bathtubs or something. Crappy Entertainment has an actual tech question. Boo. Hey mate, any idea on the global launch date for the Redmi 12 Explorer Edition? Well, now that the Note 12s have globally launched and there's bugger all sign of the Explorer, I'd say it's not going to happen. Which on the one hand is a shame, and on the other hand, I really don't need any more phones to review right now. Ewan Marshall says, has anyone counted how many your mum jokes that's been said here? Yes, actually, something from nothing on Twitter informed me that last week's episode had 6, so not bad. But I still feel a desperate need to cram even more in there, just like your mum. I'm sorry, it's like an addiction. I need help. Seth has another positive story for us. He says, last year I bought a Poco X4 Pro 5G, partially based on your review, and I've been loving it. You did warn me about the slow Android updates from Xiaomi, and I did just get Android 12 last week, so you were dead right there. I mean, oh god. I mean, seriously, if Xiaomi and Poco could just nail this software shit, it would be absolutely unstoppable. Michael Ball, but not that Michael Ball, says, I changed the name of my profile to Michael A. Ball, but I found out that the middle name of the other Michael Ball also starts with an A. That's bloody annoying. Although I'm assuming that Michael Ball is probably Sir Michael Ball by now, just like every other semi-celebrity out there, so just don't get yourself accidentally knighted and you'll be fine. Turf Shifter says, if you need more income, make some shoes. That seems to be the future. I swear there was a moment in MKBHD's latest video where you could actually see him disappear up his own arse. And Dermot Smith says, did you see that MKBHD has released his own pair of Air Jordan knockoffs? He's written the length of his first ever video on the side of them. I mean, that does seem like an incredibly arbitrary and somewhat wanky thing to write on a pair of shoes. I've got to admit, if I did a pair of shoes, they'd probably just have fake white stains on the tops of them to cunningly conceal the real white stains. OSW Review HD says, oh wow, so Apple just won iPhone PR and not an actual review. I'm sure they're not alone, but it's real crummy to hear. I mean, to be honest, they pretty much are alone these days. I've certainly not heard of any other brands completely blanking a journalist just because they gave one of their products a mixed review, and it's happened to quite a few people now. I certainly have given some shitty reviews to things, and I've never been blacklisted by a PR company because of it. I've been put in a headlock by one of the PRs because of it, but that's about it. Like, I literally compared the Nothing launcher to herpes, and Nothing still sent me stuff to review. Joe Kenzie says the Xperia 1 Mark 5 will be announced on the 11th of May next week. Not long to wait at all. Very correct indeed. So definitely stay tuned for next week's Techspert Weekly, where there'll potentially be some Sony-based shenanigans. Moto Matt says, boring tech question, I'm afraid. I am killing me here, Matt. I found one of my old mobiles running Windows Phone 8.1 in a drawer the other day, and I really missed that OS because it was genuinely different to the tedious grids of static icons that we get nowadays. You had the live tiles, the cool transition effects, the hubs for related content, etc. Do you ever hear rumours of any whizzy new OSs being talked about from any of the big industry players? Nothing mainstream, unfortunately, that's likely to compete with the likes of iOS and Android, unfortunately. The major barrier for new mobile OSs is, of course, app support, as Microsoft discovered with the otherwise spooge-worthy Windows Phone. I mean, the closest you've got these days is probably Huawei's Harmony OS, and even with Huawei's vast wealth and experience and everything, it's still no real match for Android. However, if you've got an Android smartphone, you can download a launcher which actually completely transforms the UI into a Windows Phone style experience with the live tiles and all that. I've done a full video on all of that shenanigans. Go check out Best Android Launchers 2023. I'm pretty sure I did one this year, and give you recommendations on all of that jazz. Anyway, right, bloody hell, that's enough talk about actual work stuff. Let's find some comments about knobs or something. Oh, here's one about a knob. John Trimmer says, with James Corden finally coming back to the UK, is it time for Uncle Spurt to emigrate? Hang on, is he definitely still coming back? I thought that was just an idle threat. Christ, I'm gonna have to think of a new reason of why it's so great to be British then. Or as you suggested, just get the f*** out of it. Maybe go live in a forest in Canada and survive on beaver tails and moonshine. Nedlius is asking why I need a US visa. Well, it's because I often find myself going to the US for literally like a night or two to do some sort of event thing, attend some sort of launch, and I always have to spend at least 5 or 10 minutes explaining to a US customs guy that yes, I'm technically there for work, but I'm not actually going to do any work. I'm literally just going to shoot some fucking video of something. I don't have an actual proper job, I'm just a YouTube and they don't really get it. And one time I even ended up in the naughty boys and girls back room, and I swear to God I thought I was going to get the full rubber glove treatment and everything. Sadly, they just asked a few more questions and then let me go. Anyway, this way I've finally got a legit visa for attending conferences and the likes, and hopefully I can just get straight through customs. No fear of my cheeks being forcefully parted without so much as a kiss and a cuddle. And inevitably, we've now got a little bit of which crap celebrity do I look like this week? Which crap celebrity do I look like this week? Adam Teme says, jerry-rig everything's mutant British cousin. I think by mutant, what you actually mean is scrawny as f*** and adorably weenie. And Poor Man Gaming reckons, which crap celebrity you look like the Victor character from PUBG Mobile. I haven't played PUBG in a good long while, I've got to admit, mostly because I sucked balls at it, so let me just look this dude up, see if there's any truth in the matter. No, fair play, he looks kind of badass. I bet I could look this cool if I did a slow-mo leap while firing a gun. Pew, pew, pew. Oh, I think I f***ed me up. Anyway, a massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Please do smash your comments down below. We'll try and barrel our way through as many of those as possible in next week's show. And speaking of next week...
this is about next week.
Sweet baby tap dancing mother of all f***, there is a lot going on next week. Basically, every twat and their gran is launching something. So it's Poco F5 time on the 9th, and Huawei is doing their global P60 launch on the same bastard day, of course. Sony has an event on Thursday the 11th, as previously noted, and Asus's ROG Ally is finally launching on the 11th as well, even though we basically know everything about it. And on top of all that, it's Google friggin' I.O. next week, so hip hip huzzah. And yeah, if I haven't passed out in some kind of whiskey coma by the end of all that, then it'll be an absolute miracle. But yeah, stay tuned for a few videos next week. So if you haven't done so already, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any of that saucy tech. A massive thanks for watching this shower of shit to the very end. Have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful weekend. Love you!